All right, so good evening and welcome, guys. Hope everybody's great. So today we are going to be talking about a business opportunity that has the potential to actually give us what many people consider financial freedom, right? Now, there's so many different ways out there today. People do find financial freedom, right? There is a saying that there's actually not one way road to financial freedom. There's actually quite a myriad of ways to financial freedom, right? But we're going to talk about why is it that most of us, myself included, have chosen this particular route as a way to financial freedom. We're going to be talking about the reasons why. We're going to be talking about the way one can financial freedom. But what is important as we continue with the call is maybe in trying to define what financial freedom actually means, because I do know that for different people, it actually means different things at different times in your life. Because, whatever it means today, you might find that 10 years from now, 5 years from now, you'll be in a different pace, and therefore financial freedom might slightly differ in terms of what is at the top of your priority list, right? But Robert Kiyosaki, who is an author of one of the most famous book called Rich Dad Poor Dad. I don't think, apart from the Bible, there is any other book that has been translated into more languages than Rich Dad Poor Dad, right? Whether you're talking about people in India or you're talking about people in Vietnam, South America, North America, Africa, a lot of people have actually read the book Rich Dad Poor Dad, right? So this guy is famous for teaching about financial freedom, teaching about assets, and so forth and so forth. Now, one of the things that he says in the statement is actually profound. He says, financial freedom is available to those who learn about it and work for it, right? Now, this is quite profound because a lot of people do want financial freedom, but we find that very few are actually willing to work for it, let alone actually learn about it, right? So as a result, people go through, a lot of trial and error in their lives, and end up maybe not even finding the financial freedom that they were looking for because one, they never took the time to actually learn, and once they actually find the formula and then actually start to implement and work for that, right? But there are some universally accepted definitions of what financial freedom is. One could be having the freedom to save and invest your money legally and transparently, right? Being prepared for the future so that nothing surprises you in the future. And even if it does surprise you, but it actually finds you prepared, right? Most so financially. Having control over when and how you spend and earn your money, and also making choices in life without the constant worry about money. Now, how many of us in this call would like to be able to be in a position whereby we can make any choice regarding our lives without having to worry about money? Because right now, 99.99% of all the decisions we make, they are dictated to us. Our options are dictated to us by, the amount of money we have at our disposal, right? So, I think it should be everybody's dream and everybody's goal to get to a point whereby we can make decisions not based on our financial standing, but based on what actually matters to us. There's people, maybe ladies or so forth, who are basically working a career, building a job right now, building a career right now. But if you had to sit them and talk to them on a one-to-one basis and say, look, no judgment, nothing whatsoever. But if money was not a problem, would you still be actually pursuing this career, waking up at 5 o'clock in the morning, preparing your kids, dropping them off for school, and then going back to work, having to deal with difficult bosses, difficult clients, and so forth? If money was not a problem, would you still be able to, would you still choose that particular path? You'll find that a lot of them will actually say, no, I would choose a different path if money was not a problem. So imagine that we go through our entire lives, living something that's not really ideal, but that's something that, let's just say, life has handed to us, and we did not know any better in terms of how to deal with that, right? So I don't think any one of us would want to live like that forever. I once wrote a post on Facebook and I said, the issue of pursuing financial freedom should actually be something that's not lifelong. You should not be 65, 75, 85, still trying to work for money, right? there should be a point in our lives whereby we get to a point whereby, as Maslow's hierarchy mentions it, like, right, the point of self-actualization, whereby right now it's no longer about money, but it's about contribution. It's about purpose, right? It's about doing something larger and bigger than us, right? I think that's what all of us should actually aspire to, right? So that is why, when we talk about, this is no longer the case, but it used to be quite a lot back in the day. When we're talking about Bitcoin and blockchain technology, the question people ask you is it one of those get rich quick schemes, right? And I found that quite fascinating because a scheme is actually a plan, right? That's what it is. Look it up in the dictionary. A scheme is a plan, get rich plan, right? Shouldn't all of us actually have a plan to get rich, or look and find a plan to get rich? Right? So anyway, but I do think that we should get to a point whereby we find financial freedom, obviously, as early as we can in our lives, so that we can live the rest of our lives, making a meaningful contribution in life, and also, finding and fulfilling our purpose, whatever that may be, right? So just by way of introduction, for those of you not familiar, my name is Lonabo Fololo. I am an entrepreneur and have been for many years. I studied construction management and quantity surveying. And after graduation, I only worked 18 months for a boss. And I decided that it was actually not the same for me. And I wanted something different, right? And I wanted to actually pursue, entrepreneurship. In fact, even before I went into university, my plan was to work for 5 years, gather capital, build a network, and believe it or not, and also build a credit profile so that I can go out there, and start building my own business, right? So I had lots of businesses that I wanted to build, including real estate, development, and so forth and so forth. But I had to cut that journey short, and I went, and I dove straight into entrepreneurship, right? Now, I've been an entrepreneur, for many years, and one of the things I have committed myself to doing is basically studying what is it that differentiates the rich and the poor, because I realized that not everybody who's rich was born rich, right? In fact, 86% of all the millionaires in America were actually not born with any inheritance, right? These were people who were born from poor families or middle class families, but they learned something. They did something or things in a different way that actually caused them to become rich today, right? So I've always been fascinated about the two different scenarios, that you can actually have two brothers being raised in the same household, but or siblings, right? Could be male or female, whatever the case is, but you can find two siblings growing in the same family, but then you'll find that in their 40s, one is well-to-do, is very wealthy, and the other one is not. But yet they had the same upbringing, right? So this has always been a study that fascinates me, right? So one of the things I've learned is the underlying thing is, number one, information and understanding, right? People who are wealthy, they pursue information. They attend courses. They attend Zoom presentations, right? They read books. They know that, that what they need is someone else's brain, whether they're going to put it in a book or whether they're going to speak about it in a conference or in a training. But there's always something that other people out there know that they don't know. And they are always in pursuit of such, right? So now, in my journey of entrepreneurship, I have been blessed to have authored a book called 21st Century Business Model, which really is an advocate, if nothing else, for entrepreneurship, right? We talk about the fact that, if you look over the last 20, 30 years, people who were professionals, whether you're an accountant, you were a lawyer, you were an engineer, you're a doctor, any of those professions, right? You are always guaranteed a life in the middle class where you can at least have one holiday in a year. I'm not talking about going home, right? Those of us who come from the rural areas, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about going on holiday, maybe once or twice a year, have 2.5 kids, a white picket fence, have life cover, insurance, and all those beautiful things. But what we have seen over the last 30 years is that there has been an erosion of that kind of lifestyle, right? Doesn't really matter how many degrees you have, but there has been an erosion because a lot of people who are graduating, what they were promised on their way to university and what they find when they're actually in the workplace is actually two different things, right? So the cost of living has risen so much that right now, even our young people, right, with the 2000s, parents are struggling to encourage their kids to actually go to university. Why? Because they look at their parents, they're like, but mommy, daddy, you follow this formula that you're saying I must follow. You went to university, you got the degree, you are working. But frankly, the life that you're living, yes, I love you, yes, I respect you, but it's not the life that is inspiring me. It's not the life that makes me want to. I don't want to have this headache every single, month end, like you have, right? So of course, there's something that, especially if you're Black, you're not going to say, right? But this is something that the young people are basically thinking. Go on social media right now. You will see how the parents are struggling to convince their kids to basically go to university, right? And it could be that these kids have actually find that in this day and age you're living in, you are better off being an entrepreneur, right? Or being entrepreneurial, right? Being entrepreneurial simply means that you could, yes, be having a job, right? That you love, you respect, but you should actually find something else that you're going to do on the side that can basically make you extra income, because failure to do so actually puts you in a world of trouble. There's been so many different studies, so many articles talking about the fact that in South Africa, even people earning 65,000 rands a month, right? And that's like really in the top echelons, right? People earning that kind of money on the 5th day of the month, the majority of them actually don't have money, right? So what about those who are earning 6,000? What about those who are earning 10,000, 20,000? If those guys at that particular level are actually finding that at the end of the month, they actually have more money than they have the money, right? So this is something that is common. So what do we do? And this is something, guys, if you really understand how persistent the problem is actually going to be, have a look at America, right? We were in the States, I think it was 2018, and the guy was actually driving us the Uber. This guy actually was a professional. He had a job, but then part-time he was driving his car as an Uber driver. Why? Because he could not make ends meet, right? So in South Africa, that's exactly where we are right now, where people are having to find the second or third job, right? Or having to have a side gig here and there. Otherwise, that's the only way people are able, to be sane and be able to take care of the needs that they actually have, right? So this is just the state of affairs, which is why opportunities like what we're going to discuss today is paramount, right? It's so paramount that in this call right now, there should be at least 200 people, coming to learn, okay, what is it, right? Does it speak to me? Can I do it, right? Is it something there should be more than 200 people in every single call, because people do need these kind of opportunities, right? So now, one of the things I've learned, as I've mentioned Robert Kiyosaki quite a lot, in what I've said, because he really played a pivotal role in my life and so many other people's life in terms of understanding how the world of money actually works, right? He speaks about this thing that he calls the cash flow quadrant, where he says all of us in the world, where we earn our money, we can all be classified into one of these 4 quadrants. You might find that there is people who are, sitting in more than one quadrant. For example, somebody who is, a medical doctor working for a hospital, but at the very same time, they've got their own private practice that they do attend, people to. So those people, that person is sitting on 2 quadrants, one as an employee and on the other hand as a self-employed person, right? Now, most people like myself actually find that they dislike this particular quadrant, and then they go into the self-employed quadrant, not fully understanding that, yes, there is the potential for you to make more money there, but at the very same time, you own a job, right? You don't really own a business. You can have a business card saying that you're the CEO or you're the founder. I had that. I got the t-shirt, right, in my real estate business. But what you'll find, because you become the main actor, now as a self-employed person, you have to be HR, you have to be marketing, you have to be, public relations, you have to be everything. You have to be sales, right? Sometimes you even have to be legal, right? And thank God for AI these days, right? So you have to be all of those things in the self-employed quadrant, which basically limits your ability to make as much money as you can, because now your attention is focused on so many different aspects of this small business that you're actually running, right? And the major part about this particular quadrant is the fact that should something happen to you, let's just say you fall ill, you have to be attended, at a hospital for a week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks, right? And of course, God forbid, if that happens, guess what's going to happen? If you are in the self-employed quadrant, you don't make money in that week or 2 weeks that you are in a hospital, or in that week or 2 weeks that you're on holiday, right? Because you are the business, you are the job, right? So that, also limits how much money you can make, because there is no leverage, right? The bottom line is that the guys in the E and the S quadrant, they actually don't have leverage. But then if you find the guys who are in the B quadrant, these are the guys who will, if you go to Pick and Pay right now, right? The founder of Pick and Pay, Raymond Ackerman, who is now late, you will never find him or any of his family members sitting behind the till and, helping you. But every time you go there to actually make a purchase, guess what's going to happen? That has a direct effect on his bottom line, even though he's not there physically, right? So how is it that he's able to have Pick and Pays all over the country and so forth? He's using leverage, okay? Whether it's gonna a store that he owns and is gonna employ people as leverage, or he's actually gonna sell somebody the right to use the name Pick and Pay through a franchise, that is still leverage, because whatever amount of sales that person does actually brings money to him, right? That is leverage, right? So that is why when they talk about people in the business, they talk about a human resource. Why? Because we are being used as leverage, okay? Now, that is the big quadrant. Now, when it comes to money, the most amount of money in the world is found in these two quadrants, whether it's the B quadrant as well as the I quadrant. So the B quadrant, it's leverage. The I quadrant is, I want to say, leverage in steroids. Why? Because these people don't even have to do anything. They've got people managing their portfolio, whether it's real estate or different assets, but they're basically living on passive income, right? That is why you'll find them in golf courses, you'll find them traveling, you'll find them, all over the world. Why? It's because they are living in this quadrant where they are in the I quadrant. So what's this got to do with anything? Well, the opportunity we're going to be discussing today actually gives you an opportunity, a real opportunity that you can utilize to migrate yourself from the S quadrant into the B quadrant whilst having access to the I quadrant. Okay, so how are we going to do this, right? This is very simple. So we have partnered with a company called iMind, right? So they are doing what I call democratizing access to the hottest commodity on the planet. So what do I mean by this, right? Right now, it's almost impossible for ordinary people who don't have the resources in terms of lots of money, the technical know-how, to actually go and buy their own equipment whereby they can then mine their own Bitcoins, right? And we're going to talk about why Bitcoin just now, right? So now iMind gives us an opportunity that we can participate in this industry whereby we've got listed companies. Some of them have been bought out by BlackRock and stuff like, all these big asset managers. Why? Because they are operating on the bleeding edge of technology and innovation, right? On the bleeding edge of this new digital gold that is called Bitcoin, right? So if you look at where we are right now, Bitcoin is worth about $2 trillion in terms of its market size. In value, it's just over $100,000, right? It's amazing that the same Bitcoin back in 2017, this Bitcoin was about $9,000, so $900 at the beginning of the year. If you take it even further, when I first heard about Bitcoin 2015, one Bitcoin was 3,000 rands, 2015, 3,000 rands. Did I get involved? No. When did I get involved? The following year, late the following year, when Bitcoin was around 8,000 rands. So how much is one Bitcoin right now? It's over 2 million rands, right? The question you will probably be asking yourself, am I late? Is this still has got a huge upside going forward? You are definitely not late. In fact, one of the guys that I like to listen to, his name is Michael Moores or something like that. This guy says, if you look at 5 years ago, yes, Bitcoin was cheaper then, but then the risk ratio then was actually a lot higher, right? Yes, it was cheaper, but then it was more riskier back then. But if you look at right now, yes, it is a bit expensive, If you look at, the owning one full Bitcoin, purchasing from your own pocket, right? But if you look at the risk on the other side, it is a lot lower today than what it was back then. Why? Because now it is a globally recognized digital asset. All governments around the world are talking about it, right? Every corridor of financial offices, people are talking about it. Family offices, people are talking about it. Treasuries in different companies, they are talking about this. Whether you're talking about sovereign wealth funds in UAE, in Qatar, in Saudi Arabia, in Yemen, all those people are talking about Bitcoin. All right. So it is definitely the hottest commodity of the 21st century. Now, here is where this gets interesting. If you look at the past, innovation and so forth, you will find that there was a time whereby ordinary people could only watch and see all these things taking place, and we could not be able to participate. Right? I'll give an example. When if you look back in the gold rush in the 1800s, right, ordinary people could not participate because you need a lot of money to basically travel where the gold was, have the resources to buy the equipment, buy the whatever permits was needed to actually mine the gold, right? Now, obviously, ordinary people could not participate in that. If you look at the more recent, the dot-com, boom, right, of the early 2000s, right? The people who were able to participate in the IPOs and so forth, those were guys who are called sophisticated investors. It is only now that, investing in terms of, equities and so forth is now starting to open up. But even then, when you buy after the IPO, you'll find that there's actually quite a lot of juice that has been sucked out of the growth of that particular asset. Not to say it's not going to grow further, right? So right now, we are sitting on the cusp, right? And right at the beginning of something that is revolutionary, whereby we almost know without a shadow of a doubt that Bitcoin is going to get to $800,000, right? It's going to get to $1 million. Implication in terms of the implication thereof in terms of rand value, we're talking here anything from, a 10 million rands, 20 million rands, and even more. We know this is going to happen. How can we be so sure? When we look at the amount of Bitcoin that are in circulation that can ever be printed, can ever be created, there is a limit, right? But in terms of the demand, guys, there is no limit in terms of the demand, because you are now talking about retail investors, which is people like you and me. You're talking about companies, both listed and unlisted companies, right? You are talking about government institutions, right? Both on a federal level and also on a state level, provincial level. Guys, this is massive, okay? We have a unique opportunity whereby we can still participate in accumulating this Bitcoin, so that by the time we have to be thankful of the fact that governments and all these big institutions, because of legislation and other things, right, their wheels take long to turn, but turning they do turn, right? So we know that it's actually something that is going to happen. There is no two ways about it. So the question is, how are we going to accumulate these Bitcoins? That's what we're going to be discussing today, right? And I don't want to belabor the point about the fact that what you are looking at right now, these are all different stores of value. People work for money. They take their money and they put it into all these different things. People do businesses, they earn money. What do they do with their money? They put it into all these different things. Why? Because it stores and secures the value of that particular money, right? So, and we can add all these markets up and see how big they are, right? But have a look at where Bitcoin is as a new asset. It's sitting at just $2 trillion, right? Which is a drop in the ocean. Now, why is this important? This is important because money is going to move from the money into Bitcoin, from bonds into Bitcoin, from equities into Bitcoin, from cars and collectibles into Bitcoin, from art into Bitcoin, from real estate into Bitcoin, from gold into Bitcoin, right? Because understand that there is no stopping to the printing and creation of money by governments. Let me repeat that. The reason why Bitcoin has got no ceiling in terms of how high it can go is because there is no ceiling in terms of how much money governments around the world can actually create. right? So that is a very, very important fact because it has a direct relation in terms of how high Bitcoin can go. Okay, so in a nutshell, maybe for someone who's new, in other calls, we do dive very deep into what Bitcoin is. I'm just going to give you a brief overview so that we can get into how, the how part in terms of accumulating Bitcoin. So Bitcoin is one, a currency. You can use it to purchase goods and services, right? It has been for many years. You can buy a house with Bitcoin. You can buy a car with Bitcoin. You can buy all sorts of things with Bitcoin, right? And secondly, it's not just only money, it is also a commodity. What does that mean? It simply means that as a commodity, it's limited in number, but then the demand for it is actually growing. So as a result, the value of Bitcoin has been appreciating over time. In fact, over the last 10 years, there is not a single asset on the planet that has outperformed Bitcoin. Let me repeat. Over the last 10 years, there's not even a single asset that has outperformed Bitcoins, right? In that 10-year window, right? If you look at 6 months, a year, you might find that there could be one or two assets that has outperformed Bitcoin. But if you look at over the 10-year window, Bitcoin is definitely a winner. And I do believe if we add another 10-year window going forward, Bitcoin is still going to be a winner, right? So it is a commodity and a much sought after commodity, right? And number three, it is also a payment system, meaning it allows for people to send from one person to the other without the need of a third party intermediary, right? In the with the example of, for example, the rand. If I need to send somebody money who's in Cape Town and I'm in Joburg, guess what's going to happen? I need to use a third party. That third party could be a bank. Me doing an EFT, it could be a bank. Me doing an e-wallet, cash send, whatever the case is, right? Or me giving it to someone who's flying or driving to Cape Town. Either way, there has to be a person in the middle of this particular transaction. And that person has actually, all the control of this particular transaction. They may decide that that person is not getting the money that they were supposed to get, right? For whatever reason, right? So now Bitcoin is all of those things in one, and we've never actually had anything in the history of mankind that has all those three things in one. Yes, we had currencies, but they could not really be commodities, right? And yes, we had commodities, but they couldn't really be currency, right? And they couldn't really be a payment system. So we needed to have one or two parties involved for for that to actually be to happen, right? So in terms of how we accumulate Bitcoin, there is a unique process that is called Bitcoin mining. But what is Bitcoin mining in its own? So Bitcoin mining is a process whereby these high-powered servers that they are called Antminers. There's so many different versions of them right now. But these are powerful computers designed to do one thing and one thing only. They cannot browse the internet. They cannot download a movie. They cannot do any of those things. The only thing that they're programmed, they're designed to do is to run the network of Bitcoin, right? So they do three things in the main. One, they power the network, right? Number two, they verify transactions. And number three, they actually secure the network with their sheer computing power, right? If you were to look at the computing power of Bitcoin, you look at all the universities in the world, because universities do a lot of research. You look at all the science centers everywhere, all governments, they still do not amount to not even a quarter of computing power that the network of Bitcoin actually has, right? So you can see why Bitcoin over the last 16 years or so has never been hacked, right? Bitcoin has been live since 2009 on the 3rd of January up until now, 24/7, 365. It has never been down. And yet, there is no Bitcoin CEO. There is no Bitcoin building. There is nobody who manages Bitcoin. It is just simply a code, right? A protocol that is basically running and is powered through these particular servers, right? So the reason why Bitcoin mining is important, apart from the job that the miners do, which I explained, it actually plays a role in the issuance of new Bitcoin. So what do I mean when I say issuance? Whilst I just said that there will only be 21 million Bitcoin. So what we mean is the fact that when Bitcoin went live on the 3rd of January 2009, there was actually just 50 new Bitcoins being created every single day. So every single 10 minutes, there are 50 new Bitcoins, right? So by the end of the day, there will be 50 Bitcoins multiplied by the number of 10 minutes, right? And then every 3.5 years or 210,000 blocks, and we're going to talk about blocks just now, but every 210,000 blocks or 3.5 years, we have what is called Bitcoin halving. And the nice thing is that nobody sits there with a bell and say, ring, 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 now it's time for us to actually do Bitcoin halving. No, it's actually all pre-programmed, right? To say that every 3.5 years, the block subsidy or the newly generated Bitcoins will be cut in half, and will continue for the next 3.5 years, and again will be cut in half. That is the process of Bitcoin mining, right? So we had 50 new Bitcoins, then you had 25 new Bitcoins every 10 minutes, then you had 12.5 new Bitcoins every 10 minutes, and recently we had 6.25 Bitcoins per 10 minutes, and currently we have 3.125 Bitcoins per 10 minutes that is being mined. In total, that's 450 Bitcoins that are mined every single day. Yes, there's lots and lots of different companies that are mining Bitcoins today, but think about it. If I just mines 3% of the Bitcoins in a day, just 3%, that's a lot of Satoshis that can basically, pay all of us, right, in the system. But anyway, so every company that's mining Bitcoin, they have got one thing in common as a goal, and that is to mine more and more Bitcoins, to get and more Bitcoins, out of the total supply that is being generated, right? So even if all the miners were to increase their mining capacity tenfold overnight, it does not mean that there will be now 4,500 Bitcoins mined every single day. No. What will happen is that we have got this thing called the mining difficulty. It basically auto-adjusts based on the amount of computing power that is online, right? So when there's more people plugging in and buying mining equipment, the mining difficulty basically goes up to ensure that only a block is only produced every 10 minutes. What is a block? A block is simply all the transactions happening, every 10 minutes, they are all grouped together in what is called a transaction block, right? So when you talk about these miners, what they are doing, they are competing to see which miner is actually going to verify this particular transaction block first, and whichever miner gets to verify the block first, guess what's going to happen? They win the block reward, of which we said that the block reward every 10 minutes is 3.125 Bitcoins. So this would be the block subsidy or the newly generated Bitcoins. But on top of this, there is also what is called transaction fees. So it's possible that in this particular block, there could be another 1 Bitcoin or another 0.5 Bitcoins or another 0.2, whatever, right? That is added onto that particular block. And that miner that basically mines that block obviously is going to be excited because they get those Bitcoin for that particular block. Now, once this block is verified, guess what's going to happen? It joins other previously verified blocks dating back all the way to 2009, or what we call the Genesis block. They are all linked together, right? So that is why, people can actually go back into the Genesis block and look at the transactions that happened there. They're not going to see anybody's name. They're not going to see anybody's phone number, but they will see different wallets, right? Dating back as far back as 2009, right? So now this process is obviously going to continue up until the year 2140, that's 2140. That's over 100 years from now. So Bitcoin mining will basically continue as long as there's something called Bitcoin. So this is just the historical performance of Bitcoin. Needless to mention that in 2010, 1 Bitcoin was 1 rand 40 cents. Today, it is 2 million rands. Okay. We're going to look back 5 years from now, 10 years from now, we're going to say in 2025, 1 Bitcoin was 2 million rands. Today, it's 25 million rands, right? That's what is actually going to happen, right? So if you look at this model, this is a mathematical model that predicts the likelihood of Bitcoin reaching certain numbers, right? It is partly based on the previous data, which is what you see on the left, but all this data was influenced by one thing and one thing only in the main, and that is retail investors, meaning people like you and me. And one of the things about retail investors that we've got limited amount of capital that we can use to buy or trade Bitcoin, right? But then what's happening since early this year is that the scales have shifted, right? Right now, it's actually more institutional investors, companies, nation states that are actually collecting Bitcoins. Yes, there is still a bit of retail involved, but a lot of people are busy chasing memes and so forth. And yes, there's money to be made there, but this is where we can know without a shadow of a doubt that this thing will still continue to have value 10 years from now, 5 years from now, right? Now, what is important is that this estimated, now this is like a 4-year-old prediction, but it estimated Bitcoin by the year 2024 can reach as high as 110,000. But if you look at the real historical data, it did reach $108,000, right? Very, very, very close to this estimation. Now, the very same estimation is saying that by 2028, Bitcoin should be about $508,000. That will imply a price of about 9 million rands for one Bitcoin, right? Now, again, this is based on this data. Right now, there is new data that is actually disputing or saying that Bitcoin can get way much higher than what we are seeing here, right? We are seeing people like Jack Dorsey, people like Kathy Woods of ARK Invest, people, so many different people, right? Your Michael Saylors of the world. All these guys are predicting 1 million, 2 million, 3 million Bitcoins, right? And Kathy Woods actually said it will reach 1.3 million by 2028. Jack Dorsey says 1 million by 2030, right? Now, there's a lot that has happened ever since then, guys. There's a lot that has happened. Right now, we've got pension houses in America and elsewhere investing into Bitcoin. Right now in South Africa, actually, there are even talks and rumors and lobbying is basically happening whereby pension funds will actually possibly start to invest in Bitcoin in South Africa as well. In fact, the funny thing is, as early as 2017, a company called Old Mutual, which you probably all know, started investing into Bitcoin as early as 2017, right? But nobody told you. If you research it on the internet, you'll basically find it, right? So right now, all these companies won't have a choice. In fact, Discovery Bank had a product where they partner with BlackRock, whereby they created a product for the high net worth individuals to actually invest into a Bitcoin fund through Discovery, right? So that is where the world is going, guys. It's going to go to a point whereby for you to access Bitcoin, you probably have to access it through Old Mutual, through some other financial institution. Now, the problem with that is that you will never get to own the Bitcoins. They will own the Bitcoin on your behalf. You just get to participate in the upside of the Bitcoin or the downside of the Bitcoin, right? So now, maybe the most interesting of these predictions is Julian Timmer, who is Fidelity Invest head of macro. Now, Fidelity Invest is one of the top 5 holders of Bitcoin globally. I think they own over 200,000 Bitcoins, right? So they've been in this space for a very long time. Not only do they own Bitcoin, they also invested into other companies in the space, right? Because that's how these people basically work. They will not only just invest in buying the actual Bitcoin, yes, that they will do, but then they'll also look at other economic drivers, right? What other companies are in the space and operating in the space? How can we invest in them so that we can even get more, a profit from actually participating in that, right? So, I mean, there's a lot we can discuss regarding that particular topic. But this guy says Bitcoin can go as high as $1 billion by the year 2038. And he says the reason why is that Bitcoin could possibly be the new global reserve currency, right? Guys, I am persuaded that that is a possibility because there's a lot of data that I'm consuming that persuades me to think that that is actually a possibility. So right now, you are seeing in front of you a guy called Charles Hoskinson. He is the founder of a token coin called Cardano. They've got their own blockchain. It's a DeFi-centric blockchain. These guys were involved in Ethereum. They were involved in a part of the Bitcoin core team. So they fully understand this space, right? But he went and created Cardano because he was fascinated by, decentralized finance. And for some months, he's actually been trolling Bitcoin, right? But look at hear what he has to say recently with all the developments happening in Bitcoin. So it is sort of having to eat some form of humble pie in terms of the poke shots that he's been taking at Bitcoin. Have a look at this and then we'll conclude.
As good as Ethereum can be, and Solana can be, and Cardano can be, let's be intellectually honest about this. Governments are talking about a strategic reserve of Bitcoin and Bitcoin alone. It's their entry point. And perhaps in 5 or 10 or 15 years, that dialogue narrative will change. But it is my belief that Bitcoin is going to go to $250,000 to $500,000 within the next 12 to 24 months because of the investment inflows and the great interest that has been achieved. This will translate to an ecosystem whose value is starting to approach that of gold, an asset humans have used as a store of value for over 5,000 years. Simply put, Bitcoin is the store of value for the internet, and it will remain in that role for the foreseeable future now that it has a DeFi layer.
Guys, this is crazy. Where the world is going is crazy. I wish I had more hands. I wish I had more hours in a day because it's crazy, right? We are seeing right now, people are going to, we will know them as somebody, and then 5 years, in the 5 years time, they will be in a completely different space because of what is happening, right? Now, the Trump meme coin showed us what can happen with Bitcoin when the supply crunch actually takes place. That is going to take place. It's not a matter of if, it's an if. Even if all the governments of the world decide not to buy Bitcoin as a strategic reserve, we've got a few companies that are actually geared to buy all the Bitcoins that are in circulation. Guys, all the Bitcoin that are available on OTC desk as well as exchanges, right? Something phenomenal happened recently, and that is Coinbase ran out of Solana. Now you must understand, Bitcoin is a lot scarcer than Solana, and it is going to happen. It's just a matter of time, right? So how do we accumulate Bitcoin specifically with this opportunity called iMine? Because there may be other opportunities out there that I'm not going to venture into, but how do you accumulate with this particular company called iMine? So there's two ways. One, we get to rent what is called hash power. So when we spoke about Bitcoin mining, these are the servers we spoke about. These are the computers we spoke about that do this thing that is called Bitcoin mining, right? So you can simply rent computing power here. And for that, you then get to share in the Bitcoins that iMine mines every single day, right? Based on the computing power that you are contributing to iMine. That is one side. That happens all passively. There's nothing you have to do on your side. Every single day, you get your share of the Bitcoins that are mined without you doing anything. That's one angle. Now, on the other side, the company works in an interesting way in the sense that they do not advertise for clients or anything like that. No, they simply rely on their community to actually, because every other company wants to grow, right? No company does not want to grow. Every company wants to grow. iMine wants to have a bigger and a bigger share of the Bitcoin that are mined every single day. And there's only one way for them to do so, and that is to increase their mining capacity. How are they going to do that? They could easily go to companies, they could market and do advertising, promotions, and stuff like that. But they don't do any of that because that will actually cost money. So instead of doing that, they take that money and they incentivize their community who is actually going to do it in any case, right? If iMine was not paying me, I was still, maybe I wasn't going to do Zoom calls every single day, but I was still going to tell my friends and family members about it because I found something that works, right? So now it's those two opportunities whereby you can partner with the company in educating the public about what is Bitcoin, why Bitcoin matters, and how people can actually accumulate Bitcoins and partner with iMine. And should they do so, there is a compensation structure that iMine has basically put one side. Okay. But how does one get into iMine? It's very simple, right? Let me tell you about my journey. I had to get somebody who's already a member because it is a members only club, right? I had to find somebody who's a member and I had to request for them their unique referral link. They gave me the link. I created an account. And once I created the account, did my KYC, because they had to know who I am. And I then had to select, so which amount of computing power do I want to select, right? Which amount of computing power do I want to rent? And once I've made the decision and I made the purchase, guess what happens? 48 hours later, I then started to earn my own mining rewards, okay? And that's basically the journey of anyone that gets into iMine. There is no other way, right? So even if you were to go to the website, imine.com, read the terms and conditions, and you see that, okay, I'm happy with this, I want to get started, but nobody referred you, or maybe you don't want to work with the person. If you click on sign up, the system says, but we don't know you, who referred you. And if you don't have a referrer, then you cannot create an account, okay? Now, in terms of the legalities, iMine is registered and licensed in El Salvador. They are licensed for two things: one, for Bitcoin mining, and number two, they're also licensed for network marketing, right? In terms of their mining facilities, they're located one in Kyrgyzstan. There is USA, Florida. There is also Argentina, right? So they're utilizing obviously clean energy because right now, Bitcoin miners are good for scavenging clean energy, right? Looking for clean energy. Why? Because it only makes sense, right? Because it's cheaper. Okay. So now, why did I personally chose iMine? Because they're not the only one, right? Because I know these guys are experts. They've been in this space for many, many years. I know that I've got 24/7 technical support. There is a growing community, albeit there's a big community in Asia, a growing community right now in South America, Brazil to be more precise. And right now, Africa is coming on very strongly. And places like China, Japan, there is big communities that are involved with this particular opportunity. And we know that they're basically utilizing the latest equipment, because failure to do so would be futile, because they won't be mining any Bitcoins if they're using the old outdated equipment. So whenever you find on Gumtree or the internet, Facebook Marketplace, somebody selling a Bitcoin mining machine, you must understand that most of them, they are actually outdated, right? They are inefficient. Okay. Now, in terms of the package, the hash power package you spoke about, there is a variety. You can start wherever you're comfortable starting. Nobody will tell you otherwise. You make your own determination, right? For example, the gold package is $10,500 in USDT. In terms of the rand value, just multiply that by 19 or maybe even 20 to make it easy for you. It will give you a ballpark figure of what it basically costs in rands to get that particular package. Now, what is important is that each and every package have got a certain amount of terahash or computing power that is assigned to it. For example, when you buy the 1,000 or the mini package, which is 1,000 US dollars or 19,000 rands, you're looking at 68 terahash. Okay. Now, currently, there is a promotion whereby instead of the contract, the mining period being 1,200 days, it is now 1,400 days. So that's like almost 4 years of mining, right? Every single day, you're getting your share of the Bitcoins that are mined. Now, what is important is that the next halving is by the year 2028. You want to be mining until the year 2028, when the price of Bitcoin, I think, is going to go ballistic. All right. So now the nice thing is you can start anywhere. You can buy as many times as you want. You can buy 5 packages in one day or whatever. You are all at liberty, but each and every package you're buying, it is a separate contract and will run its own number of days. All right. They might even have different hash power depending on when you are actually buying your package, right? Now, I'm excited also about our 3rd anniversary in Dubai on the 14th of April. I'm hoping to bring you with me. It is quite simple. we'll show you the business model that is attached to this opportunity that, if utilized properly, can actually get you the funds you need to be able to travel to Dubai. Okay. Now, it will be on the 14th of April. There will be people from different parts of the world. It's definitely something that you do not want to miss, because I can promise you one thing: Dubai alone is going to inspire the socks out of you, and the event itself will even take that inspiration to a whole new level, right? So, in terms of the distribution part or the network marketing side, there is a few different ways that we do get compensated. I won't really go deep into them because of time. But what I do want to mention is the fact that the company, over the last 2 years, they have done a total of over $100 million. In the bigger scheme of things, guys, those of us who love network marketing, understand network marketing, will know that this is a small number. So meaning the room for growth is massive, right? It all depends on you, right? One thing about network marketing, guys, is that if I ask many of my mentors one question: who make the most amount of money in network marketing and why? You know what was the answer? The one who speaks to the most amount of people is the person that makes the most amount of money. Simple, clear. It does not matter. There is no in between. Okay? So if I'm shy, I do want to make money, Marie. Hey, you need to get off that horse. There's no financial freedom there in the world of shyness, right? So anyway, the company is aiming to reach as high as $1 billion in sales by the year 2028. I have chosen to lock horns with the company and make sure that I help them to get to that point. Why? Because 30% of all the sales that are done through the company, remember what I said, the company doesn't spend money on marketing and advertising. Instead, what they do, they actually take that money and they pay it out in compensation in the network marketing structure, right? Why they chose network marketing? Very simple. This industry is over 80 years old. It does over $400 billion in sales every single year. It pays over $200 million a day in commissions to people like you and me. Over $200 million, right? Multiply that by 20, and guess how much that is in South Africa, right? There's over 120 million people involved. You can work from anywhere. If you decide not to come back when we visit Dubai, you can literally build your business from Dubai or from anywhere else in the world. As long as you've got internet connection and there is people around, you can basically build your business, right? There's a lot we can say about how it works and why it is the best of the best, network marketing, that is. But tonight we are going to restrict us into the iMine opportunity, right? So there is 3 different ways you get compensated. The first one is the direct commission. So if I help Mr. Dube to sign up and he buys a package for $1,000, guess what's going to happen? That very same day, I am going to get my commission of 10%, of which 10% of 1,000 will be $100. All right. And on top of that, I'm going to get credits. Now, those credits, when they accumulate to get to 150 on either side, guess what is going to happen? I get what is called a binary cycle bonus of $150. Now, based on how big my business is and how it grows, I can basically get as high as $1,500 per day in this bonus alone. But all other bonuses actually don't have a limit, right? So if you look at the match-up bonus, which is $10 per every person in your organization, that makes $150. There is no limit. If you look at the direct commission, there is no limit. It all depends on me, right? So let me try and draw this very, very quickly because of time. So even if you're saying to me, look, whilst I'm still trying to understand what network marketing is, whatever your excuse is, right? When you sign up, we have to place you on what is called the binary tree, right? Bi means 2. So meaning this particular tree only has got 2 branches that are growing infinitely on only 2 branches, right? So now you are placed in the binary. So the person who would have signed you will probably be sitting there. If you bought, for example, the $500 package, the person who signed you up will get 1 credit, all right? And when do we actually get to cycle? Every time you've got 5 credits left and 5 credits right, that is when the company takes away the credits and replaces them with a bonus of $150 worth of Bitcoins. All right. So now this person, obviously they're building a business, so they will possibly sign up the next person, place them on the right-hand side, and we've already made an assumption that you've signed a plan for $500, and therefore he or she got one credit, right? And now, when they sign this person here on the right-hand side, let's assume this person buys a $3,500 plan, meaning that he gets or she gets 7 credits on the other side, right? Now, what does he need to do for him to get a cycle bonus? He needs to continue adding more people on the left-hand side, okay? Now, let's just say this person adds another person here who buys a $2,000 pack, meaning he's going to get 4 credits, right? So on top of the one he had when he signed you up, he now gets 4 more credits, making his total 5 credits, right? Now, what is the system going to do? It's going to minus the 5 credits on the left. He is left with 0. Minus the 5 credits on the right. He's left with 2. And he's going to get his $150 worth of Bitcoins. Now, over and above that, you sitting here pretty, having not done anything yet, guess what's going to happen? The same 4 credits he got for this particular person here, you are going to get the same credits on one side. Now, if this person continues, right, or maybe this one starts their own business, and this is basically how it's going to work, and they continue building their own business, going down and so forth, get to all these credits, they are going to come on one side, and that is your left side. You have what is called the power leg. Now, all you have to do is to simply come and build your business this side. And as you build your business, let's assume that you had 114 credits. All you have to do, just simply work on this side. And every time you get 5 credits this side, you get a cycle bonus. In other words, of the 150, it's almost as if somebody is working for your other $75, right? It's an interesting way of looking at it, right? But if you are like me, you are not going to wait for anybody to give you any spillover. You are going to build your own business because you never, ever want to put your destiny in the hands of another human being, all right? So now that is all that I had to present to you tonight. In terms of our announcement, one, tomorrow we are here again, same place, same time. Do not come alone, right? And secondly, on the 1st of February, ask for the link to the person who invited you to the call. We have our 90-day game plan launch in Johannesburg at the Capital Hotel in Melrose. Okay. Now, this event, guys, we're going to have a bit more time there. And secondly, we're going to be talking about our millionaire maker strategy called the 90-day game plan. We're going to be talking about the skills that are required for you to succeed in network marketing. We're going to be talking about how to build your prospect list, how to grow your guys. There's a lot that we're going to cover, right, on that particular date, something that you don't want to miss. We do have people coming from Cape Town, Eastern Cape, Durban, so definitely you don't want to miss, as it's going to be a very, very powerful session. With that being said, I am going to close the session here, and I am going to open for any question you might have before we call it a day. Let's just make sure that I